You might notice it first as a quiet heaviness in your chest, a subtle fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to touch. Perhaps it comes in the mornings as you pull yourself out of bed, or in the evenings when the day has ended and yet the mind refuses to rest. You feel present in the world, moving through routines, completing tasks, engaging with people, and still there is a weight that sits just beneath your awareness, persistent, unspoken, unnamed. It is not dramatic. It does not arrive with fanfare. You may try to put words to it, tired, drained, worn, yet these words feel shallow, unable to capture the nuanced heaviness that settles into your shoulders, your chest, your mind. There is a quiet subtlety to it, like a fog that moves slowly over familiar terrain. It is there whether the day has been difficult or ordinary, whether interactions have been taxing or calm. It is simply there. You may notice this exhaustion in small moments. While listening to someone speak, your attention flickers, not from distraction, but from the internal hum of fatigue that seems to live beneath thought itself. While performing routine tasks, your body moves as expected, yet an inner energy is absent, a frictionless heaviness pressing against even the simplest actions. And still, you are able to function. Functioning becomes a mask, a way to navigate the world while carrying a private weight that few notice. Early experiences may have contributed to this subtle exhaustion. Perhaps you learned long ago that your emotions were not always seen, understood, or protected. Perhaps your sensitivity, your curiosity, your awareness of nuances, emotional, social, or situational, required constant adaptation. You became attuned to the unspoken rhythms around you, the shifting moods of others, the unvoiced tensions in a room, the undercurrents of expectation that hovered invisibly. This attunement, while necessary, quietly consumes energy. In these moments, you may notice a pattern: deep reflection, heightened awareness, empathy, and careful observation. All adaptive and coherent skills draw on a subtle reserve of emotional energy. You move through life anticipating needs, noticing gaps, adjusting your presence, monitoring the feelings of others, and managing your own internal responses simultaneously. It is not visible fatigue, but it is real, persistent, and often unnamed. The exhaustion may feel confusing because it has no obvious cause. It does not appear after sleepless nights or taxing tasks. It does not coincide with immediate stressors. It is a quieter strain, a background hum to life that whispers, "You are carrying more than you realize." And when you try to explain it, you may find words inadequate. You may even question your own perception, wondering if perhaps you are imagining the heaviness, if you should be able to move through life unburdened. There is a particular solitude to this experience. Others may notice your competence, your reliability, your calm in difficult situations. They may not notice the subtle cost of your attunement, the way your body and mind quietly accumulate weight from being present and aware. The paradox is that you appear capable and even composed, yet underneath, your energy is spent in invisible, nuanced ways. You may also notice patterns in your interactions. Sometimes you withdraw quietly, not from a lack of interest, but to preserve the remnants of energy that remain. Sometimes you respond carefully, choosing words and gestures that allow engagement without further depletion. You may have learned to monitor your own thresholds, adapting in small, almost imperceptible ways to survive the world's demands. These adaptations are coherent and intelligent, yet they quietly reinforce the sense of exhaustion. This pattern is not a flaw. It is a reflection of sensitivity, awareness, and deep engagement with life. Carl Jung spoke of the complexities of the human psyche, of the ways inner life can bear weight that remains invisible to the external world. This type of exhaustion is subtle, but it is coherent with the structure of a life lived attentively, with perception extending beyond the obvious, beyond the surface, into the undercurrents of experience. Awareness of this pattern brings perspective. You may notice how your attention, energy, and emotional resources have been distributed over years of adaptation. You may recognize the coherence of your responses, the intelligence of your adjustments, and the subtle cost they have extracted. Recognition does not demand change. It simply allows you to observe. And in observation, there is a small but meaningful relief. You may also observe cycles of renewal, subtle though they are. Quiet moments alone, reflective walks, small pauses between tasks, these intervals allow your energy to gather again, even if briefly. You may notice that when you acknowledge the existence of this unnamed exhaustion, even minimally, the weight shifts slightly. Recognition itself is a subtle balm. There is also a unique awareness that accompanies this experience. You perceive dimensions of life that others may not see: emotional nuance, hidden tensions, undercurrents of thought and feeling, patterns of interaction that remain invisible. This capacity is a quiet gift of attunement. It comes with a cost, yes, but it also allows for insight, empathy, and perception that are deeply human, profoundly coherent, and richly nuanced. It is natural to oscillate between recognition and fatigue, between the richness of perception and the subtle cost of awareness. You may notice days when the weight is heavier, when engagement feels like movement through thick air, and other days when awareness flows without obstruction. These fluctuations are natural, coherent with the structure of attentiveness and sensitivity. They are not a failure, nor an indicator of weakness. Moments of grounding can offer clarity. A gentle breath, awareness of posture, noticing the small sensations of the body, or observing the external environment without expectation. These are ways to inhabit presence without further depletion. They do not remove the underlying exhaustion, but they allow temporary reprieve, a softening of the weight and a reminder that the self can exist in harmony with attention, without constant strain. You may also notice subtle agency in this experience. Recognition allows you to make choices about when and where to expend energy, how to engage with others, and when to step back without judgment. Awareness itself grants freedom, not obligation. It does not prescribe action. It simply illuminates pathways gently for consideration. Over time, you may recognize that this unnamed exhaustion is a companion of depth, reflection, and attunement. It carries no blame, no moral weight. It is simply a natural consequence of inhabiting a life that engages attentively with people, situations, and your own internal rhythms. There is coherence in its presence, subtlety in its expression, and humanity in its persistence. There is relief in acknowledging the pattern. You may soften your expectations of yourself, noticing that fatigue is not failure and that depth carries its own demands. You may permit yourself to rest without guilt, to retreat without shame, to reflect without judgment. This recognition, quietly, offers a small but profound sense of self-compassion. Finally, there is grounded hope. Awareness allows understanding, reflection allows presence, recognition allows gentleness, and within these acknowledgments you may discover a subtle alignment. The unnamed exhaustion is not a verdict nor a permanent state. It is a rhythm, a consequence, a reflection of attentiveness, sensitivity, and coherence. In noticing it without judgment, you reclaim perspective. You understand yourself better, and in this understanding, you are safe.